I'm here with my main man, Vocab Malone. Now, Vocab, you like to explain things to a young generation, but there is a young generation out there, they don't know what the Old Testament is, they don't know what the New Testament is, they don't know what the Qur'an is, they may have heard the words, but they don't know what these things are. So, I need you to explain what these are in Star Wars.
All right.
So, the Old Testament, what is the Old Testament in Star Wars?
The Old Testament is like Star Wars, A New Hope. The first installment introduces everything.
All right, so if that's the Old Testament, what would the New Testament be?
New Testament, like Empire Strikes Back, moves the plot along, furthers the characters, surprising twists and turns.
Surprising twist. All right, if the Empire Strikes Back is the New Testament, what would the Qur'an be?
The Qur'an thinks it's Return of the Jedi, but it's Spaceballs.
I'm going to answer the questions here from the perspective of Muhammad so that we can see which Star Wars character Muhammad would be. Now, I know everyone's thinking Darth Vader, and that's one of the problems with these quizzes is that it only gives you a few different characters you might end up being when there are tons of characters in the film. So if I were to pick anyone from the films who would be most like Muhammad, I would probably go with the leader of those desert people, the ones who kidnapped Anakin's mom and tortured her until she died. They lived in the deserts. They were involved in human trafficking and torture. So those are all characteristics that they shared with Muhammad. So I would probably go with something like that, but probably not going to be one of the options. So let's see who Muhammad would be given the options available to us. Let's begin quiz. Choose your weapon. Got blasters, some force lightning. Obviously we have to go with the lightsaber. Muhammad was called the prophet of the sword after all, so we'll go with lightsaber. What kind of childhood did you have? I was moody and self-involved, maybe traumatic in a way that can only be properly explained in a prequel. I have happy memories of my home planet. It was good, but I couldn't wait to get out there and explore. For some reason I can't remember. I'm starting to think that someone may have messed with my memories. I'm going to go with traumatic in a way that can only be properly explained in a prequel. Muhammad's father died before he was born. His mother died when he was around 6. According to Muslim sources, angels ripped his chest open so that they could remove sin, and people thought he was demon-possessed because of this, so I'm going to go with traumatic. It looks like your friend might get in a fight. You don't get involved. Start talking things out and get these two to shake hands. No. Rush to his or her defense. Possibly Muslims are supposed to defend each other. Get him or her out of there ASAP. Ditch them when they need you most, but head back just in time. I'm going to go with get him or her out of there ASAP because Muhammad did do this with some of his persecuted followers when they were in Mecca. Muhammad sent some of his followers to Abyssinia to escape persecution, so we know that he would get them out of there if he could. When encountering new ideas, are you naturally inclined to be more open-minded or more skeptical? I guess that would depend on what time of Muhammad's life we're talking about. Maybe early on he might have been open-minded to new ideas. He did go against the paganism of his time. But as time went on, after he became a prophet, certainly became more and more skeptical of anything that didn't agree with his position. So I think we're going to have to go with very skeptical on Muhammad's part. How do you handle criticism or opposing ideas? I think we all know how Muhammad dealt with criticism. I'm going to do things my way no matter what anyone says. Maybe listen closely to the opposing view. This could be a learning moment. No, Muhammad not big on learning moments. I can find people's lack of faith disturbing. Now, this is the obvious Darth Vader answer, but there's really nothing that can compete with this. We know that if people lost faith in Muhammad and left Islam, Muhammad wanted them killed. If you rejected Muhammad, you had to die, unless you were a Christian or a Jew, in which you could pay jizya. But either way, you had to be subjugated. So it's literally your lack of faith that is going to get you killed. So It's a perfect Muhammad answer. We'll look at the rest just to see if there's anything else. I don't say much, but if I hear relevant information, I'll use it. Argue my case with facts and logic. Muhammad not big on facts and logic. Pull someone's arm out of socket. Yeah, maybe, but this lack of faith, perfect. Which of these would you be most interested in studying? Hope these don't involve reading, because Muhammad was illiterate. Combat tactics, that would be relevant to Muhammad. We know that he even used some interesting combat tactics, such as trench warfare and so on. International diplomacy, maybe, because he would advise his followers to form temporary treaties while they built up their armies. So if you were facing an enemy who's more powerful than you, you'd form a treaty until you were more powerful than them. Then you attack. Astrophysics, certainly not. Check out Muhammad's view of the universe, where stars are missiles that God uses to shoot demons and so on. Not interested in astrophysics. New language, maybe, if it would be helpful. Practical mechanics, probably advise his followers to, learn some mechanics if it would be helpful in warfare. Psychology, I wish Muhammad had studied some psychology. It might have helped him understand how some of those psychological traumas when he was young affected him, and especially his theology. But we'll go with combat tactics. Over the years, how would you say you've grown as a person? I've learned to control my emotions and put others first. No. I've hardened myself to the endless suffering that is life. Not really. After starting at the bottom, I've earned status and respect. Looks like a good one for Muhammad. I've learned to be careful who I put my faith in. Personal growth is overrated. I can see going with personal growth is overrated, because Muhammad, after he became a prophet, seemed to get worse and worse. He just got more and more greedy, more and more lustful as time went on, so he wasn't really growing morally or spiritually. But if he were to answer this, I think he would go with, after starting at the bottom, I've earned status and respect. He started out at the bottom in the sense that, he was a caravan trader, but eventually he becomes a prophet and the most important person in the world to his followers, and the most important person in history to his followers. So I think he would say earn status and respect. And think about it, even today, Western leaders will not say a word that's critical of him. So certainly earned a lot of status and respect through what he did. If something bad happens to someone close to you, how do you cope? Do you yell no? Drop everything and find out how I can help? Do what I can for my friend while keeping things together in my own life? Find out who's responsible and make them pay? At least it didn't happen to me. Now, I can see a couple of these answers. Muhammad did lose a lot of people. He lost a lot of relatives. He lost his wife Khadija, lost several children, a lot of his followers who went out into battle. So there are several answers here. I'm going to go with find out who's responsible and make them pay. Muhammad's followers were persecuted in Mecca. They left Mecca, and Muhammad spent a lot of time getting revenge. He started off by robbing the Meccan caravans, and then that led to war, and eventually he returns and conquers Mecca. All of that so he could get the people responsible and make them pay. So he certainly focused on vengeance. Your pet is sick. I hope that pet isn't a dog, because Muhammad ordered his followers to kill dogs, because an angel won't come in your house if you have a dog or a picture. Your pet is sick, some other kind of pet, I guess. You're in the middle of moving and you've got a bantha-sized pile of work to finish. How are you holding up? Better than ever. Stress puts me on my game. No. Like a Zen master, this is business as usual. No. A little out of sorts, but nothing I or my blaster can't handle. Help, I'm falling apart faster than a busted R2 unit. Muhammad did get out of sorts when things wouldn't go right, when he couldn't raise a big enough army to go and fight and so on. So we'll go with a little out of sorts, nothing I or my blaster can't handle. He would fight his way out of it with a 7th century version of a blaster. When I need to come up with the right thing to say, I tend to fall back on quippy one-liners. No. Mind-blowing wisdom? Definitely not. Relevant facts? No. Intimidation? I think we have a winner. Generally the silent type? No. Some R2 noises? We have a winner with intimidation. Muhammad believed in intimidation. Which most accurately describes your relationship with your best friend? We get in fights, but we always make up. I guess this would be Abu Bakr. We get in fights, but we always make up. No. Share a deep bond, but people don't really get it. No. Balance of power is heavily tilted in one direction. That is a winner, unless something else comes up. We're so much alike, people sometimes get us confused. No. Friends aren't really my thing. No. It's like we could be brothers or sisters. No. The balance of power with Abu Bakr. You have Abu Bakr. Muhammad goes to him and says, hey, I want your 6-year-old daughter. Abu Bakr objects. He says, no, we're brothers. And Muhammad pulls rank on him and demands his 6-year-old daughter in marriage. So that balance of power was certainly heavily tilted in Muhammad's direction. When it's time to get a job done, I never give up and always achieve what I set out to do. Maybe suppress a minor panic attack after logically examining the task at hand. Muhammad isn't examining things logically. Take my money up front, not putting my neck on the line for anyone. Crack down and get to work even if no one notices. No. I find fear and intimidation can be excellent motivators. That is a perfect answer. Fear and intimidation. Whether you're talking about Muslims or non-Muslims, Muhammad's strategy was one based on fear and intimidation. Muhammad said that he'd been made victorious with terror. So that's how he deals with unbelievers. You terrorize them, so fear. And even with his fellow Muslims, he's constantly warning them that all these different things they'll do will make Allah not love them, or will make them non-Muslims, and so they'd have to be killed. Surah 9, verse 73 declares that Muslims have to wage jihad not only against unbelievers, but also against hypocrites. So Muslims are always wondering, have we become hypocrites, or have we become apostate? Very, very terrifying religion. So intimidation and fear were Muhammad's motivators. Which planet would you most like to visit? We have a desert planet, we have a swamp, we have a forest, and then where the powerful go to make things happen. The desert would be like home to Muhammad, so no reason to go there. Doesn't mean you want to go to the swamp or a forest. We all know that Muhammad favored power, so he would want to go where the powerful make things happen. And this is the last question before we find out who Muhammad was. You love Star Wars, but what bugs you about it, besides Jar Jar Binks? When Luke and Leia kiss, that's not allowed according to Islam. Continuity errors? Nothing has more continuity errors than the Qur'an, so Muhammad would probably like continuity errors in Star Wars. Anakin in the prequels was awful. Stormtroopers' terrible aim. Since Muhammad was focused so much on conquering his enemies, he would find that a huge problem. Anything else here that would trump that? No. Stormtroopers' terrible aim is going to win, and now we find out who was Muhammad in Star Wars. And of course, surprise, surprise, Muhammad is Darth Vader. Muhammad was tortured and disconnected from human affection. He is the Empire's most feared villain. The galaxy has been cruel to him, so he has little remorse about turning to the dark side. Those who doubt his powers do so at their own peril. That is perfect. I think Darth Vader is cooler than Muhammad, but as far as the options available, can't get any better a description than that for Muhammad.
So, Lone Star, now you see that evil will always triumph, because good is dumb.